Hey friends, Dawn here, welcoming you to the Soul Goals podcast and year number 3. This year, we are diving into expanding our perspectives, challenging our belief systems, and working the mental and emotional muscles of our souls. Though still all about growth and connection, this year finds opportunities to hear from people in our communities that have walked a path that might be different from our own, but that ultimately present us with the chance to look at a subject in a different light and learn other ways we could approach challenges in our own world. Let's get to it. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Soul Goals podcast. My name is Dawn, and right next to me in the virtual studio today, we have Mr. Tony Bradshaw. Welcome to the show, Tony.
Hey, Dawn. Thanks for having me back on for a second time.
I know we had some technical difficulties the first time. So thank you for being so gracious and coming back on to re-record with me today in year 3 of the podcast, the Soul Goals podcast. This year, we're taking on a different subject each week. And today is kind of a buzz one for me. Anyway, I know I hear a lot of people talking about it. It's a word that's thrown around. It's money. It's making money. It's finances, financial overall well-being, financial myths. And I wanted to have you on today and talk about how we step into that abundance mindset from your backstory of where you came from the financial situation, and what it is you do for people now. Because Tony is a financial literacy and wealth building coach. You are an entrepreneur, business coach overall, personal finance educator, which I think is amazing. You're an author. You have 2 books, The Millionaire Choice and 31 Days to Get Money Smart. And that 31 Days to Get Money Smart was just a fairly recent release, wasn't it?
Yeah, I just came out with it, I think, in February. And my goal was to make it a very simple book, very easy to read. So it's only about 70 pages long. It's very thin.
Perfect. That's what people can digest and really take in. And you got all those different points in there that really are getting straight to the point. And I think that's what a lot of us miss, is that we get the fluff around the finances. We get the mindset blocks that come in. So I'm so excited to have you on today. And let's also talk about your podcast, the Millionaire Choice podcast with Tony Bradshaw. And then you also have another one that kind of goes along with that second book. It's Get Business Smart podcast as well. So there's 2 different entities kind of happening within the things that you have to offer folks. So let's get right into it. Tell me a little bit about your background, how this all started for you, maybe your upbringing and your philosophy on money, kind of where that started for you, and why you got into this line of coaching, this line of helping and literacy, financial literacy for other people.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in a low income family, not really low income, like poor, but like not very well off. And my parents were strapped a lot of times. There were some years, I didn't know this until later, but my dad made like $7,000 one year.
Oh, wow.
Working a whole year, working overtime and everything. But because he was a, subcontractor, the way things fell out and expenses and all that kind of stuff, he just didn't make a lot of money. And, my parents were a little bit strapped. My mom was a convenience store manager for much of my childhood. And, she got paid fairly well. I think about 30 grand a year, something like that for that time, you're talking in the 70s and 80s. And, but she was managing like 3 stores. So she was working some weeks, 80 to 100 hours a week. She was robbed by gunpoint. I think it was either 5 or 6 times. One of those times, the guy actually put the .357 Magnum barrel on the end of her nose, and so that one really shocked her, and really got to her. The other times that she just shrugged it off, but that one really messed with her a little bit in the head, and she thought she was gonna die, and so she had to go into some recovery for that. But then she just went right back to work, and my mom was just a real trooper. But they never really learned how to manage money. And so a lot of bounced checks, a lot of unpaid bills, water got cut off, power got cut off regularly. These were things that happened regularly, and I didn't understand it. I'm just like, hey, power's off, and then my parents would scrape together the money, go get it turned back on. Or they would send me out to the water meter with what's called a water key. It's a little tool, and I'd turn the water back on, and we would have water, and then they would go pay the bill. One of those times, I think it got so far behind, they actually took the meter out, if I remember correctly. I was pretty young.
Tony.
So it was, and then that cost a lot of money to get that turned back on. So, but that's the way things rolled. And so when I was in my 20s, I went off to college. I didn't know how to manage money. My parents floated me a lot through college. I had a scholarship. I worked a little bit. But I wasted a lot of the money I made in the summer. I made money in the summer, but then spent it all. I didn't really know what it meant to, like, hey, save your money for college. but I made plenty of money in the summers to go back to school. But
Hmm.
I didn't keep it. I didn't save it. I just spent it, and which was just stupid, bad habits, same habits my parents had. So when I turned 25, I was out of college, worked a full year as an engineer, and I got my W-2, and I had made $39,000, and I didn't have any of it.
Oh,
And so
wow.
I looked at it and I'm like, hey, I got a $14,000 car that I bought on car note. So I was paying about $315 a month. And I had some credit card debt, about $2,000 or $3,000 in credit card debt. And I saw that and I looked at the W-2, 39 grand, and I looked at my expenses and I had no money in my bank account. And the light bulb just clicked on for me. And I,
Mm.
adopted this philosophy of, what happened last year really can't happen again. I have to change. And so I did what I knew how to do, which was learn. And so I went to the bookstore, picked up some magazines, picked up some books on money, and just started reading. I read Kiplinger's Fund magazine, Smart Money magazine, and then learned about mutual funds, learned about stocks, learned about real estate investing, and just made a shift. And what happened for me at that point was, instead of spending $3,000 a month, roughly, I just started spending only $1,000, only about 1,000, and then I would take another 1,000 and put it towards my debt, and another 1,000 and put it into investments. So I really just shifted my budget and where my money flowed into those three areas. And I
Yeah.
was living at home with my mom and dad at the time, so they were only charging me about $200 in rent. And so that was part of my living expenses. So that shifted, and I had $800 left over to roughly spend. And what happened very quickly for me by just shifting where my money flowed, is the way I say it, is I was very quickly, within 18 months, out of debt. Within 18 months, I had $18,000 in mutual funds and stocks and things. And that was a very big difference from, hey, you spent all your money and you're 16 grand in debt, to, hey, you're out of debt, and now, oh, by the way, you're buying a house and you get married, right?
Yeah.
So those
Wow.
are
A
big
lot
big
of
shifts.
discipline.
Yeah, it was very quick to, put a formula together that said, hey, this is the formula I'm using, which is really not a formula, is crap. It's not working, but hey, let's shift and make some differences. And that's also when I put together what I call my millionaire plan. So that's why my book is called The Millionaire Choice. The first part of the book is about making the choice, and then there's a bunch of knowledge
Mm.
inside of it. And then at the end of the book, it's about putting the plan together, which is your income plan, your debt plan, your spending plan, and your investing or wealth plan. And that's what takes you to where you need to be. What I find in finances is that most people don't have a vision for their future. So they're kind of
Mhm.
stuck doing the same things they learned as children, which is go make some money, spend your money, go make some money, spend your money. And they keep doing that over and over. And then if they're lucky, they might start a 401k. And then
Mhm.
they're going to keep doing that. So that's go to work, make some money, spend some money, save a little bit in a 401k, which is better than nothing, but it's still not good. 401ks are not the end all of investing. It's really kind of like the beginning. And you need to graduate from the 401k into other investment opportunities if you're going to learn how to build wealth. And so that's what I did. And continue to practice that today. That was kind of like my beginning. I was able to become a millionaire by age 40, which was my goal.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Okay.
it didn't happen exactly the way I planned on. When I got married, I tried to talk my wife into moving into a trailer. She said, "No, I'm not moving into a trailer." So I had to go find a house instead, because I wanted I
Okay.
wanted to be I wanted to be out of debt. I was so anti-debt. So I looked at a trailer. It was $40,000. I figured I could pay this thing off in a couple of years. And but she didn't want that, so we found a $62,000 house and bought that.
Okay.
And then we started having children, and I'm like trying to talk her into doing cloth diapers, because cloth diapers are cheap. You can buy $20 worth of diapers and you're good. Just got to keep washing them. My wife said no to that, and
Yeah, I probably would have too.
fortunately, my boss also told me, he said, Tony, I did cloth diapers. Don't do cloth diapers. And
Yeah.
so I said, okay, well, let's buy diapers. And so that's $1,500 per kid for diapers over the course of, 2 or 3 years of having a baby. And so that adds up. We had 6 children. So that was about $9,000 in diapers.
Mhm.
And so that's a lot of money, when you think about raising a kid and plan. So I didn't plan on all that. I didn't plan on the kid. I didn't plan on that. I didn't plan on getting married to a woman that had $20,000 in debt. In my formula, my plan to become a millionaire, but it happened. So, and we still ended up making it. So, one of the coolest things I think about people, the human mind, the human, how God has made us, is that when we have a vision, great things can happen. We can just get moving in the right direction. If we can
Yeah.
get moving in the right direction, and in God's will, then some pretty amazing things can happen. And that's kind of what happened in my life. I just shifted the way I was thinking and created a new plan with a vision and started working on it, and eventually we ended up making it.
Yeah. Well, it takes a lot of discipline. What I hear you saying is that the choice, which you speak about in your book and also speak about on your podcast, is the biggest piece. Is that right? Is that what I'm hearing? You make that conscious choice?
Yeah, it is a choice, but it's also a mindset shift, and that we can't underestimate that, because so many people, their mindsets are stuck in scarcity mindset, which is, hey, I live on
Mm,
less than I make. These are things
yeah.
Dave Ramsey teaches too: live on less than you make, act your wage, give every dollar a budget, or every
Mhm.
dollar a name, put it somewhere. So budget every dollar. And those are all good concepts. But what I find in my teaching is that they're kind of starter concepts. They're kind of like first base concepts.
Okay.
When you actually start moving into a mindset of true abundance, you don't think that way. You
Mm,
think about creating more opportunity, more finding different ways to make money or build wealth. You're not
mhm.
so constrictive. And so, like, even when we're teaching kids about money, in a Dave Ramsey program, one of the first things you teach them is how to budget. And I
Yeah.
think that's the wrong thing to do, because it teaches them constriction. You're
Okay.
constricting yourself to a budget based on what money you make. What you really should be teaching first is how to multiply your money through investments. And that way they're focused on multiplication of money, not constriction of money. And
I
so that's
love
one of
that
the things
concept,
I
Tony.
learned. Yeah. Yeah. And it's I think it's very powerful, because once you learn how to multiply money, that then shapes your budget,
Yeah.
because then you go, how much money can I invest? Not, oh, what's
Yes.
left over that I can invest, or how do I invest a little bit? It's a totally different mindset. And
Yeah.
so that's one of the most important things. I think the most important thing when you're going to build wealth is where your mindset's at and how it's structured.
I love that you said that because it's a scarcity mindset to an abundant mindset, and making that choice to step into that kind of reality. I really I love that piece. I feel like that we in teaching others how to multiply what it is instead of just working with whatever's left over. That does create. I mean, when you say it, I kind of get a little buzz. Like okay, that just makes it hits. It makes sense for me. Like I get that. Why do you think people hearing this might say, "Yeah, that's great, Tony. That's awesome. But you know, it hasn't worked for me. And I'm still in this place where I'm struggling paycheck to paycheck. And how do you make it? If I have paycheck to paycheck and so many different things going on, what's the reality for me? How is this going to shift for me? Is it, if it's just as simple as making a choice to do a different mindset, why, if I sit here and do that, why won't it be different for me?
Yeah.
What's their hang up, I guess?
Yeah, I think what happens is you get people who are they're starting to make the shift, and they think they have when they really haven't. And
Oh,
so
wow.
even for me, when I was on my way to become a millionaire, I didn't really make the abundance mindset shift really until probably the last 5 years. So I was
Okay.
a millionaire at age 40, but it was age 50 before I would say I truly shifted into an abundance mindset. And
Mhm.
so I'd been a millionaire for almost 10 years already. And I was still kind of had some of the old tendencies, the old habits, the constriction of thinking,
Yeah.
the scarcity, like all of these kinds of things were still there. So I wouldn't say I was fully in abundance, but I wasn't fully in scarcity. I was kind of like in this in between space, one leg in
Yeah.
one leg in the other. And I think that's where a lot of people get, because it takes a while to transition. Some people that want to build wealth, they don't do what they need to do. So it's like you've got to go develop skill sets. You got to
Mhm.
make yourself more valuable in the marketplace. So if you're working at, let's say McDonald's or fast food, anything,
Mhm.
the opportunity is just not there. Now you
Yeah.
can you can scrape by and try to invest, but you're not fully in abundance. So you really need to go, how can I actually go make some more money? And some people in the Christian space think that's a bad thing. Like, oh, you're being
Right.
greedy because you're going to go try to find more. No, no, I can work 40 hours a week and make $10 an hour, or I can work 40 hours a week and make $100 an hour or $500 an hour. All it comes down to is going, hey, where does God want me? That's a big deal. Like if you're a Christian,
Mm.
that's number one. Like that's if you're a Christian, that's number one, is where does God want me? Because God can bring you opportunity through your work. He can bring you opportunity in different ways. And so you have to get your life straight. Um, and you've got to go through these things. You have to develop your skill set. You have to become more valuable in the marketplace. Then you have to do wise things with your money instead of spending
Yes.
it. I
Yes, yes.
Even though we were building wealth, I did spend some money on some stupid stuff. I bought a $5,000 home video screen projector,
Yeah.
and put this big man cave. It's genius. And then I did, or it was fun. And then I bought recliner chairs for the man cave and all the stuff, so I probably spent, I don't know, $7,000 to $10,000 on this stuff, which people would say, oh, it's not that big a deal. Well, it really wasn't, but I really wasn't in the financial position yet
Okay.
to do that. I had the money to do it, but it wasn't wise usage of that money. I should have waited another 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I should have put that money into investments, let that
Yeah.
create more income. And then I bought a Corvette for like $52,000 cash. I bought a boat for $63,000 or $65,000 cash, and those weren't necessarily bad things. At the time, we could afford them.
Yeah.
But if I was being wiser, I would have bought a little bit less or put it off a little bit longer, or invested
Right.
that money. Yeah, because when you look at those numbers, I bought those things back in like 2014. So that money today, just on the car and the Corvette and the boat, would be I think around 250,000. So that 100 grand would have made enough to be worth about 250.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah.
I love what you said back about the skill set and how sometimes we have to switch our mindset to be able to develop a skill set to get us out of the stuck place that we are. If people are listening and saying like, this just doesn't work for me, it's kind of shifting that mentality about looking for those opportunities that might be present or might be just outside of it, and taking that risk, maybe stepping outside of your comfort zone to find something that may be a little bit more applicable to you, moving you forward in a more abundant mindset. I know, like for me, that's been the case. Like, talk to me a little bit about some of your setbacks along the way. Like, have you had, points? I imagine you have. You're human. Like, you have points where you're like, this is really, really hard. Like, is it really worth it to stick to this budget? Is it really worth it to stick to this plan? I mean, is this really working for me? Or were you like, you know what? I'm going for it and I'm going to stick to it and I'm going to give it my all that I can.
Yeah, I would say for me, I just kind of do what I'm doing. So I'm not, I wouldn't say it was hard. I would
Mhm.
say, once I set on that journey, we just kind of kept going. We didn't really lack money, since I was in my, got married in 1998. We had money. The only time we didn't have money was when I went to work for Dave Ramsey, and I
Mhm.
went from making 47,000 a year down to making 35. We couldn't even afford health insurance, but I knew that's what God wanted me to do, was to go work for Dave Ramsey. And so
Okay.
I made it happen. I did my budget. I said, this is the least I can make to live on. And
Mhm.
apparently that was the right number because I got the job. And in the 90th day of working for Dave Ramsey, he started giving my team, the team I was on, there were three of us there, bonuses. And we started making an extra $500 a month. And that was
Mhm.
just enough to cover the health insurance. So God
Okay.
provided me with the health insurance when I needed it. And he paid for it, and so
Yeah.
that was the beautiful thing about following the Lord on that journey. And then, my income just at days, God blessed me tremendously. It just kept going up, 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 up. Now, hard times would come after days. And what the Lord said to me was, hey, Tony, you've had a very comfortable life. And he
Mm.
walked me through it. And he said, you've always had the big picture. You've always known where you're supposed to be. Your income went up astronomically. But this next chapter of your life is not going to be like that. And you're only going to get the next step. And you thought you knew what faith in me was. Now you're really going to learn. And so, to a
Mm.
kid who had been a Christian, grown up in Christian home, Christian college, Christian school since I was 9 years old, that was, a little bit jarring to me. Oh, I thought I knew what faith in you was, but now I'm really going to learn. And it has been that journey. It has been a place of lack since I left
Mhm.
Dave's. I went from making a lot of money to making no money. And
Mm.
but being faithful in what he's called me to do, the Millionaire Choice Show, these things I'm trying
Mhm.
to do. Some days I wake up, I think I know what I'm doing. Other days I wake up, I don't think I know what I'm doing. So there's a lot of self doubt going on.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and so you just persevere and keep moving, and just, and he's provided, and we're okay right now. But that journey of going, hey, he is lifting me up into something, but
Mhm.
it's not here yet, right? So you just kind of keep moving on and going forward. Um, but those
Well,
those are the hard things. But you talk about sticking to a budget. Um, Not really. It's not been that hard. I think we don't really spend crazy amounts of money, and especially right now because we don't have crazy amounts of money like we did in the
mhm.
past. But more conservative approaches, and I think probably one of the interesting things that happened to me more recently, Dawn, was we were in church, And we had a missionary pastor come in. She's a global missionary lady, and she was talking about their church over in Mozambique, Africa,
Mhm.
and how the Muslims are slaughtering Christians over in Mozambique, and how her church leader that was over there, literally on his way to church on a Sunday morning, was stepping over bodies in the streets where they had been gunned down. People had been gunned down. And so they were taking up a love offering for this church that was going on through these hardships. And it hit me that we were supposed to give money to this morning, and we were tight on cash. We just didn't have it. And
Mhm.
I'm sitting there, and I looked over at my wife, and I said, "Hey, can we donate to this?"
Mhm.
And I had made $500. Like, that's all we had in our account, $500. And and we said to her, can we donate to this? She says, "Hey, I can't move any money out of our account." And I'm like, "Huh?" I said, "Well, let's pray about it." So we're sitting in church. We prayed about it, and after we prayed, she tried to move the money again, and she moved it. It moved, and I
Okay.
looked at her. I looked at her, and I in the face, and I said, 500. I'm like, "Give it
Okay.
all. Just give it all."
Okay. Okay.
And so she did. She looked at me in shock, just went like, and
Well, it takes a lot of faith to be able to
yeah,
step into something like that, especially when you're coming from a place of this is all that I have to give. So I think right there, in and of itself, I mean, that can create this. You can either go one of two ways. You can go into abundance with that blind faith, or you can go into scarcity with concern and constriction, like you were talking about earlier. I think
mhm.
if someone were to come to you, like as someone that you coach and talking about their financial position and their attitude, is that one of the first things that you address with them, is talking about having faith in the things that you're addressing and that you're seeing, or looking for the opportunities to be able to step out of where you are? What's kind of
Yeah,
your approach?
it's going to be different for different people because people are at
Mhm.
different levels in their faith journey. I've been a Christian since I was 9 years old. I surrendered the decision for picking my wife to the Lord back when I was like second grade, so third grade. So I'm like, Lord, you bring me the person you want me to have because your choice is going to be better than mine. And so I gave that decision over to Him very early. And so it's been, and watching parents that grew up in faith, so it's just different for different people.
Sure.
So I think one of the big things is to figure out where they're at,
Okay.
and when you're coaching them, you go, "Hey, where are you at in your faith journey?" And then get to the basics. It's like, are you spending too much? Most
Mhm.
people have way too many credit cards. Most people,
Mhm.
they don't have any grasp of their money. They're on a budget. They're just paying bills and running and gunning, and so
Yeah.
slowing down is probably the biggest thing. Initially, is to just slow people down and take a hard look at what's going on in their lives, whether
Mhm.
it's money or just lifestyle in general. It could be one of them could be conservative, one of them could be crazy spender, and with no plan. If a woman and a man are in a relationship, no, so here's something that's interesting, Dawn. I did not know this until several months ago, but 70% of divorces are filed by women, and it's
Oh,
usually
wow.
over insecurities around money. So, like if a husband loses a job,
Yeah.
that security is taken away from her.
Yeah.
So that the divorce follows that, or maybe he's mismanaged the money, or maybe they've mismanaged the money, but she blames him. So you
Mhm.
can get into those kinds of things. So really, just taking a look at that stuff and
Mhm.
slowing down. And if you're faith based, as we've learned, my wife and I've learned, is there's a lot. It's easy to be comfortable when that checking account's full of money, but when that
Sure.
checking account's at zero, then you really start finding out where your faith is, because you're going, is my security in the Lord, or is it in the checking account that's actually got money in it? Which one is it? And that's what I think God's had us learn in our marriage and in our
Yeah.
relationship and in our money situation is the money lacking? Is the checking account zero? Or some days is it less than zero?
Right.
And where's your faith at, that the Lord's going to provide for you in this season? So those are kind of the early things I would do with somebody, is just,
Mhm.
get a baseline of where they're at. And then most people I find are, if they are investing, they're doing 401ks, which
Okay.
is, it's the most entry level basic investing. It's actually a terrible investment tool.
Okay.
Um, but it's the one that everybody's been trained on. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's what that's what the bankers, that's what Wall Street wants you to be trained on. So you're pumping up the stock market, and
Yeah.
so when you think about all the millions and millions of people that are going to work and where they put their money, right in the stock market, it's all designed that way. Everything's
Mhm.
designed for that to happen, And it's really us creating the value in the stock market. It's not the value of the stock market going up. It's we're the ones creating that value that pumps that
Well,
market up.
it's like where we put our emphasis, I guess. Like that, which brings me to another point: investing versus saving. Which do you think is more important? I mean, if we think about what you can control and what you can do, saving money, sticking to a budget, that kind of thing, but the investing, what helps people to make more, to the multiplication thing that we were talking about earlier versus constricting, and looking at money from that position and how you do that. Is investing more important than just saving, or do the two kind of fit hand in hand in your opinion, in your experience?
Yeah, well, let me throw you a little bit of a twist. I'll give you a new model that I've come up with called the new emergency fund. Because when most people save, they're saving in an emergency fund. That's
Mhm.
3 to 6 months of living expenses. It's usually cash in a money market account. I teach a new model called the new emergency fund, which is cash and money market, probably about 50% of your savings in that, then about 25% of your savings in gold and silver, and then 25% in cryptocurrencies.
Okay.
Now, why do I teach that? Because if you go back to like 2000, let's say 2017, 18, 19, something like that, what you're going to find is that if you had done that model, let's say you had $20,000,
Mhm.
your cash has actually lost value. Probably at least 50%, close to 50%. It's going to be like 70 to 50%, 50 to 70% that it's gone down in value due to inflation.
Right.
Okay. So your money is actually worth less. So if you had 10 grand in a savings account, it's now worth like anywhere from five to $7,000. Okay.
Yeah.
Purchase power. But if you had had that money in gold, silver, or cryptocurrency, that say that 10, we'll just bundle those together. Well, then that $10,000 is now worth 30, 40 to $70,000. Okay.
Okay.
So it went up in value. All three of those are very liquid. You can go just about anywhere and take gold and silver and exchange it into to cash. You can
Mhm.
take cryptocurrency and exchange it into cash. So
Mhm.
that's what I call the new emergency fund, and it's going up. And that new emergency fund is actually going up in value 2 to 3x over a period of time. It's going to continue to do that.
Yeah.
Um,
So
whereas
it's a combination
cash
of
money market,
investing. Well, it
well,
sounds to me like
well,
what you're
that's
saying.
yeah, that's just the savings account. So, like, some people might have 10 grand in their savings account. Some people may have 50 grand in their savings account. The reality is, you've only got one model that actually goes up in value, and if you're in crypto, it's gonna go up and down, up and down, up and down. But if you get in the right time, like if you'd gotten in 2016 or 17, well, you're up 10x. You're up
Yeah.
10 times what it was worth before, and it's not going to drop that much back down. It'll drop, but not that much. So you just got to
Yeah.
get in at the right time and hold it. Now, the investment in the mutual funds and stuff like that, I'm a big believer there's only three forms of real wealth, and that's going to be land and real estate,
Mhm.
gold and silver, and then businesses that produce goods or service. Okay.
Okay.
So when you look at real estate's like one of the number one areas that people actually build wealth long term, and it's because it's a real asset. It's
Mhm.
it's it's real, it's tangible, it's real here. Stock market's a Ponzi scheme. So you can make money in the stock market, but you need to move your money into things that are real assets. So when you look at
Right.
what Bill Gates, for example, he's a multi billionaire, I don't know, 250 billion or something like that. But if you look at him, he's also the I think the largest private landowner, if not the largest. He's pretty close up there, and he
Yeah.
owns something like 350,000 acres of land across the country. So why, if he's in stocks and stocks are all that great, why is he buying up a bunch of land? It's because land's real. It's real wealth. It always has
Yeah.
been wealth. You go back 5,000 years, 7,000, whatever. Who controlled the most land? Who monetized the land through agriculture or through whatever purposes? So you really want to make sure that you're not just 401k in it, where it's all in the
Mhm.
stock market, but that you're actually kind of dabbling around in some other things to actually build wealth, and that's a key element. And what I've learned is some things are going to produce a lot more money. Some things are going to produce a little bit more money. The,
Mhm.
the, the key is all of them are producing more money. So
Yeah.
really wealthy people, what they do when they make money is they put their money where it's going to make more money.
Yes.
What poor people do is they put their money where it's going to spend and make no money. So that's the
Mm.
real difference
Mhm.
between, when you say the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, it's because the poor they're either not making enough money to survive, and they're not doing the things like learning that they
Yeah.
need to do to make more money.
Yeah.
They're watching TV 140 hours. I think the average American watches 140 hours of television a month. That's
Yeah.
like
Crazy.
it's almost 40 hours. But now you got social media. people
Mhm.
scrolling, for
Mhm.
hours a day when they should be reading or they should be learning or they should be
Yeah.
doing anything.
Yeah.
So give you an example. I got this guy, I think his name is Nicholas Petty. He teaches people how to create faceless Instagram accounts to make money. And he's got people that he's trained to make Instagram accounts, and they're making 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand, 50 grand a month off of these Instagram accounts. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, if you're going
It's
to watch
crazy.
TV, you're watching TV, or you can go do something different. Like, but
Yeah.
it's where you put your energy, and that's what you're going
Yes.
to get your return on, is the energy you're putting out. It's either
Yeah.
going to come back to you, 10x, or it's going to just escape from you. And I'll say this is kind of funny actually, but I mean, when you look at Facebook or any of these entertainment systems, let's use Facebook
Mhm.
for example, they know how to monetize you while you're on the toilet now.
Yeah. Right.
Like they're
You're
they're
not wrong.
literally they're
Yeah.
literally taking your toilet time and making money off of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
It's
it's crazy to think
crazy.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when you're sitting at a red light and you're scrolling on Facebook, they're making money off of you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they have developed a system to monetize us at every level.
Mhm. Yeah.
And if we continue as individuals to give them that power, then we're the ones that lose, because that's our time. So
Mhm.
you can learn stuff in the car, listen to YouTube channel or something, learn
Mhm.
some new skill. So anyway, that's the whole mindset behind all that.
Well, it sounds to me the big thing is diversifying, and common pattern of millionaires and those that have that abundance is that they are diversifying. They are thinking outside of the box, and they are plugging into themselves and looking for those opportunities that are present in their lives, and maybe stretching themselves. I think you said a little while ago, it's learning a new skill. Sometimes we have to step out of our comfort zone and get into something that is going to produce. I love what you said. There's the three different places to invest. That's the land, real estate, gold, silver. This is your what you would tell your clients that you're working with, and businesses that kind of create something that is a good base, a goods and services basically that's sellable. That's even a word right there. But all of that being said, that's the diversification that I hear you saying that is
Yeah.
helping across the board for people that are in that financially abundant state. And I think it's interesting. We can go back and talk a little bit about what you spoke about when you were in your household growing up, and you were just modeling what it was that you were taught. So how do you help clients step outside of a potential model that they may have had growing up, and that now here we are as an adult, and I don't know any different. How do I break that? Is it just educating them on what the things that you're talking about now, or is it helping them to kind of unpack their stuff from the past around money, or maybe a little bit of both? I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's two things I would do with people. Is one, I try to get them to think about their budget in a different way. So if you're looking at a budget, a lot of times you're just trying to figure out how to make ends meet.
Yeah.
And so I really break down a budget into four categories. That's living money. That's the money you have to spend every month to just kind of survive. That's your
Mhm.
food, your groceries, your housing, your electricity, those kinds of things, and just the bare minimum, right? So that's your living money. Then you have your others money. That's money you give away to people. And then you have your play money, which is the stuff you have fun with. So if you're like, you got a gym membership, goes in play money. You got Netflix, goes into play money. You got Hulu,
Mhm.
goes into play money. All these kind of things that are entertainment based, that's play money. And then you have a wealth money bucket, right? So you just look at your budget in four different ways, and you check those percentages. Most of the time, what you're going to find is either your wealth money and your play money are way out of whack, and
Yeah.
that's where all your money's going. And you're going to have very little in your wealth money bucket, and you're probably not going to have that much in your others money. If you're a church guy, that's 10%. You got 10% right off the bat in the others money. If you got birthdays, you're celebrating with people, you're spending money on people, that goes into others money.
Yeah.
Any kind of giving you do for other people goes in that bucket. And what you're going to find is your wealth money bucket is usually going to be a very, very low percentage. If you're
Mhm.
at in a 401k, it might be like 4% of your paycheck,
Mhm.
and which is not enough. It's just not
Yeah.
enough. So, and what happens is you feel like you're doing something, so you don't really pay attention to it. You don't think about it. You don't develop a vision or a plan, but you're doing something. So you've met that mental need to feel like you're doing something.
Oof.
I'm investing in my 401k. I'm getting 4% match. Um, it's better than nothing, but it's still not good. So
Yeah.
you gotta shift from that mindset into what does it look to be good. So the reason I do those four buckets is because once you figure out your percentage of your wealth bucket, might be like 4%. you're going to go back and go, wow, man, my living money's like 60%, but my wealth money is only like 2% or 4%. So you're going to start increasing your wealth money, and you're going to try to lower the others money. I'm sorry, the play money and the living money. You try to lower that and raise
Mhm.
that up. So what I tell people is you want to try to get to like 10, 20%, 30%, 40%. If you can't get to 50%, right?
Yeah.
So at my height, we were doing probably 60, 70% in retirement
Mhm.
or investment type stuff. I'm not doing that right now because we're not in the same financial situation we were several years ago. So I'm having to lower that back down for now,
Sure.
which is fine. It's just living
It's a
ebbs and flows
season of
of life.
life.
Yeah, ebbs and
Mhm.
flows. So that's
Mhm.
the biggest one. The other one is you've got to start putting some money towards multiplying your money. You have to start
Mhm.
learning that. And you have to do what I call is get money smart. That's
Mhm.
millionaire key number 3 in my book, which is get money smart, which means you have to learn about money. And that means you got to read a book. So if you read, for example, Dawn, a book on money once a month for 12 months, that's it. Just one book a month for 12 months,
Mhm.
a few hours, maybe like 7 hours a month. You will be one of the most financially educated people in your circle within a year.
Yeah.
Within 1 year, that's all it takes. And the
Yeah.
number one book you probably ought to read is because this is the one that always pops up on my podcast is Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
That's the number one quoted book on my podcast that people say that book changed my life. Now, I don't agree with everything Robert teaches, but I can't deny the impact it's had on culture
Sure.
and society. So that's a big one. But those are kind of the highlights. Get money smart, start investing something so you can at least start shifting your mindset from a non-investor type, non-multitude, making that more of a priority.
Mhm.
And then what happens is you start to shift your focus. That'll create the steamrolling effect where it'll grow and it'll get bigger and it'll get bigger. So I had one friend, a guy named Cordell Frazier. He was, I think, 37 years old. I think he's 37. And he grew up in a family that was very debt averse. So he had no debt. He had, I think it was $75,000 in savings, no investments, though. He didn't know anything about investing.
Okay.
So when he started learning about investing, he jumped in whole hog. He's like, man, I love this. This is the best thing ever. So he took that 75 grand, dumped it into some investments. Within 10 years, I think by the time he was 47, he was a millionaire. And then once you cross the millionaire threshold, it's inevitable that you will be a multimillionaire because your 1 million will become 2, which will become 4, which will become 8. And
Yeah.
so that's what happened with Cordell is he just started investing and he developed an investing mindset. So every time he got a dollar, he just figured out where he could put it to
Mhm.
make more money. So he bought in real estate investments. He bought fractional ownership in racehorses.
Oh,
Like
wow.
he was always finding something where to put money to where to make more money. And
Yeah.
that he went in. He developed an abundance mindset very quickly. That's an abundance
Yes.
mindset. So versus somebody who's, like I said, one leg in, one leg out, you're kind of still scarcity mindset, but you're doing some investing. You're not fully abundance minded at that point. But anyway, those are the 3 things. Look at the budget, where your percentages are,
Mhm.
start investing something, and then, get money smart. Those are kind of the big 3. And then find a money mentor would be another one. That one's
Yeah.
a little bit harder, but yeah, finding a money
Yeah.
mentor, somebody that's been through it already that can teach you a little bit.
Yeah, well, someone that can educate. We teach what we know, right? And so and those that know different things, I have found that when I've asked questions of people that know more about a subject than I do that I'm trying to research, it's like they're so willing to give me that information. They're so willing to share their experience at the podcast right here. You're willing to share your information, which is beautiful. And I just want to say, I think that it's being able to adjust is the biggest key takeaway I'm having for you from you today. And that mindset, obviously, we're talking about abundance mindset and shifting the mindset. That's the biggest piece. But being able to adjust and knowing that you can do it. And I love the concrete example you just gave. It's great. We're out of debt. We're saving money. But what are you doing to multiply? That's the biggest thing I think I'm taking away from this today is that what are we doing to multiply the investment that we have, the savings that we have? Where can we safely put it to look at a place of this is how we get to more abundance in our lives and to be okay with the fact that it's all right to make money. It's okay.
Mhm.
It's okay to have money and it's okay to be able to, because when we have it, then we can contribute and we can flow it to a lot of other things as well. So that's a whole other podcast episode right there.
Yeah.
But I just love that in the 4 buckets that you talked about. I think it's very concrete and based on your experience. And again, we teach what we know. We teach
Mhm.
what we know. I love that. Let's talk about what you would tell your 25-year-old self now based on your path and how you've walked and the setbacks that you've had along the way with money, what you've learned about it, how you coach other people now through these different pieces and these different paths that we've talked about today. What would you tell your 25-year-old self that was looking at that W-2 and going, ooh, what am I doing with my money? What am I doing with my life?
Yeah, absolutely. I've thought about that quite a bit. That question, probably one of the first things I would say is when you buy your house, buy a house. A, buy a house. B, don't ever sell that house. So keep it and turn it into real estate property. So if you move into a second house, take your first house and start renting it out.
Mhm.
So yeah, some people, what they do is they'll sell the first house and then take that money and put it into the second house. If at all possible, keep the first house, turn it into a rental, whether that's Airbnb or long-term rental, but do that. My first house was $62,500. My house note was $500 a month. I could have easily serviced that. But I was so anti-debt minded that I wasn't thinking that way.
Mm.
And then now that house today, I think is worth about $500,000 and would rent for about 2,500 a month. So yeah, that was a mistake. The second house I was in, we actually had it paid off. So I really didn't even have a need to sell it.
Yeah.
But we sold it. And then because I was so anti-debt free, I wanted to take that money. I put it towards my current house. So I was financing the house that we're in now.
Mhm.
And I didn't really need that money. I could have win it, kept it. It only helped me pay the house off maybe about a year earlier than we did. We paid this house off within 3 years
Mhm.
of moving into it. So I really didn't need that money. It was just that was a cash asset. I could have put some renters in it and started spinning off a second income stream. So those are one of the two biggest things I would say on as far as real estate goes. Buy a house,
Mhm.
start developing real estate. But I wasn't really big on real estate. I was really because I was with Ramsey at the time. We were really big on mutual funds and
Mhm.
401ks. But that's only one dimension of investing. There's hundreds of ways to make money in investing. And I was
Yeah.
locked down into just two 401k and mutual funds. The other thing I would tell myself at 25, and I would have really told myself this at like 13, which is buy gold and silver. Take a portion of your income and acquire gold and silver. Maybe it's 5% of your income or maybe 10, depending on how much money you're making. But just buy gold and silver because gold and silver has been wealth for over 5,000 years,
Yeah.
and it always has value no matter what country or what empire or what kingdom or whatever. It always has value. What doesn't always have value? The US dollar.
Yeah.
So and fiat currency. Every fiat currency in history has failed. Every
Mhm.
single paper currency in history has failed. So when you think about that and people got their savings wrapped up in the US dollar today, you're waiting for destruction. It's just not. Would you rather have $3 million in cash or $3 million in gold? It's
Yeah.
going to be gold because gold. I'll give you an example. I had a client about 4 years ago who had $3 million in gold, and so today that $3 million in gold should be. It's either between $6 and $9 million is the value. But if he had $3 million in cash, you know what the street value of that cash is today?
It's
About
dropped.
it's probably about 1.5 million.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
one
so
and a half.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we think about that. And it just I love what you said too about you talked very specific about your experience, the anti-debt thinking. That's kind of that concept and shifting that to look at the other dimensions of ways of thought, ways of investing, ways to grow your money. And I think that's what I'm hearing you say. You would tell your 25-year-old, like, don't be afraid don't be so pigeonholed into one specific lane and
Mhm.
allow yourself to research, allow yourself to learn, allow yourself to grow in a way where you can go, all right, there's other things that I can learn. And it's learning about
Mhm.
it and understanding it better for you and your experience.
Yeah, and give you another example, like right now, there's a lot of financial advisors. I think it's over 500,000, 500,000 or more financial advisors out there. But you know what they haven't been telling people to buy? Bitcoin.
Yeah,
And
crypto.
it's
Mhm.
because they're stuck in the old system. They're stuck in the old
Mhm.
ways of thinking and doing things. Now, is crypto a good thing or a bad thing? Let's talk about it for a minute. All right.
Yeah.
It's a
Okay.
fake. It's a fake thing. It's fake. It's
Mhm.
fake money.
Mhm.
All right. So
Mhm.
the US dollar is fake. The stock market is fake, and now we have cryptocurrency, which is fake. Now, what gives it value? The reason it has value, just like the others, is because we think it has value. As long as the American people or the people of the world think that something has value, it has value.
Sure.
So why does the US dollar have value? Because the bankers said, hey, this is the new money. So
Sure.
then
Yeah.
everybody started using it, right? But they
Right.
told us
Right.
that. It doesn't have any value. No, it doesn't have any value. Gold and silver has value because it comes out of the ground. It takes work to create it. It's a real
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah.
Paper, you're
Tangible.
yeah, you're
Hmm.
printing paper. It's like no,
Hmm.
there's no value to it.
Yeah.
So except for psychological value. So the same thing goes with cryptocurrency. So with what we're seeing right now, you start to wonder like, why are we $38 trillion in government debt? Why does that exist? Our government is essentially bankrupt, so
Yeah.
that's a fact. Our banking system is essentially debt bankrupt. So
Hmm.
the American people have more debt now than any time in history.
Yeah.
So why is that? And here's why. All of that stuff is all relative to the fact that the global bankers and the governments that are working with the global bankers are shifting us away from the US dollar.
Hmm.
So the US dollar will crash, it will go away. Some people think as early as this year. I don't think it's going to happen this year.
I think early. Yeah.
I think it's going to happen between 2029 and 2031, a little bit after that, actually. So it'll start to melt down
Hmm.
even more than it already is melting down. You're going to see hyperinflation.
Hmm.
And then eventually they're going to sunset the U.S. dollar and they're going to put everybody on cryptocurrency. So
Hmm.
that's why when you go, oh, Bitcoin, I don't understand it. What is it? Well, it's basically the next financial system. That's why it has value. Is because they are setting it up to be the next financial system, and they've got to get rid of the old system to bring in the new system. And so
Sure.
that's what's happening. That's what's happening with digital ID. It's what's happening with all of this stuff that they're doing. Um, and I hope they don't. I hope it doesn't work. I hope everything they try to do just totally fails and flops.
Oh
But
no.
but
Yeah.
right now, yeah, and I don't know what God's doing with all of it. I think this is part of the journey to where we just have to, hang on and see what God does with it. But that's what they're trying to do. So when you go,
Sure.
hey, should you buy Bitcoin and gold and Ripple and some of these other cryptos? My answer would be yes, because
Yeah.
you can make money in the fake system. You just have to be smart about moving it into the real system, which is,
Yeah.
like I said before, gold, silver, land and real estate, and businesses that produce a good or service that people can use. But you can use the fake system to make money and wealth, but you want to move a portion of it over while you're making it. That way, when this system crashes, you're not
You're ready. You're not
you're not left with
stuck.
nothing. You've got something.
Yeah.
And that's the whole
Yeah.
diversification. So
Yeah.
real estate doesn't. When you look at the percentages, percentage wise, you're going to make more money in the stock market if you make the right
Hmm.
investments than you are in real estate. The,
Hmm.
the thing is, you're still going to make money in real estate. It's just going to be at a slower rate than if
Hmm.
you were in necessarily stock market. So, and that's
Right.
okay. That's why I'm saying the diversification is very important, because both
Right.
of those are making money. They're just making it at a different rate.
Correct. Yeah. God, Tony, so good. I love this. You speak about this on your podcast, the Millionaire Choice podcast, where you have people come on and speak about their experience with money and their experience of becoming a millionaire and their process of getting to that point. And then the Get Business Smart podcast that supports the book that you just released. I love it. I think it's great, that tangible information that I think so many people may be lacking, may not have that knowledge, that understanding. And I love how you are an advocate of learning and going out there and really stretching your mind, looking at things beyond where you might be sitting, and just using that imagination, that your brain, your mind power, to be able to go, all right, I'm smart enough, I can read a book a month that's not 7 hours a month. I mean, based on what we're talking about and how much time we spend on social media and watching television, it's a big deal. So it's I hear you saying it's attainable for anybody. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think you see plenty of examples of that. People that are broke. I had a guy that was on my show, David Nassif, I think it was his name, and he was 62, lost his job, and realized he didn't have any money. He's broke, and so he started trying to figure out money. He created this program called the Wealth Compass. He became an insurance salesman at first. That was his
Mhm.
first play, and within I think it was 7 years. By the time he's 69, he was a millionaire within 7 years in his 60s.
Crazy.
In his 60s. So a
Wow.
lot of people,
Mhm.
one of the lies people tell themselves is it's too late for me. I wish I knew this when I was younger. So they make this excuse instead of getting after it. This dude got after it. So he went from broke to millionaire within like 7 years in his 60s. Now he's multimillionaire because he's in his 70s. I think he's 72 now. So like I said, once you hit that first millionaire milestone, it's going to double up. Eventually it's
Mhm.
going to double. It's going to double again. So you just got to hit that first milestone.
Oh, Tony, I love it. Dude, so good. So good. Thank you so much for this wonderful information. Thank you for teaching what you know and your experience. It's beautiful and it's relative, and you're sharing such really great information that I don't think a lot of people have. That we do tend to confine ourselves in those things. I really adore what you just said about the gentleman that you're talking about. Like, it's never too late. It's never too late. I think that's
Absolutely.
another big takeaway. Never too late. You guys, go check out his book, The Millionaire Choice and 31 Days to Get Money Smart. Listen to Tony's podcast, The Millionaire Choice Podcast with Tony Bradshaw, as well as Get Business Smart Podcast. Check it out. Learn and sponge up all of that wonderful financial information, bust through those myths, and get to that abundance mindset, because we all deserve it and we all can do it, right? Yeah, you got it. Thanks so much, Tony, for being here.
Absolutely, Dawn. Thanks for having me on.